I actually wanted to talk about three things based on the speakers before me, because I felt I can't miss the chance. So first of all, I just wanted to say briefly, thank you for that wonderful testimony about work in Ukraine. Not many people know, but UPF is actually quite active, has been active in Ukraine and the bordering countries to provide relief aid. I don't know if it's possible to show the screen there, Raymond. And in particular, I'm very happy about the work we're doing in Moldova. Now, Moldova is a small country, and you probably heard it's also facing Russian attack in the separatist area of Transnistria. From an early time, our UPF chapters around Europe decided we have to take action, and the first action was to raise money. So we invited ambassadors for peace like you and others to donate, and we raised about 600,000 euros in a month. And we're directly supporting 200 families who are refugees and who've moved outside of Ukraine to help pay for their living expenses, their children to go to school. Now, here is our peace embassy in Chisinau, and this project is called the Sunflower Project. It's a project for the children of refugees, and it was recently featured on CNN, and CNN described it as the happiest place in Moldova right now, because of course the children don't know what's going on. They need school, they need activities, so I just wanted to tell you we're still collecting money for Ukraine and for Ukrainian refugees. But we're also trying to work with our very large Russian chapter. You know, most of our Russian UPF members, of course, are appalled by what's going on and thinking about how they can help with the reconciliation that has to come in the future. So that was a response to our gentleman from the Red Cross. Thank you very much. And then, since someone was doing a travel program for Albania, I just wanted to tell you that our facility here in London is not the biggest UPF embassy in Europe. We have a nicer one and a bigger one in Albania, in Tirana, which we just opened a few months ago and already is playing a very active role in the development of UPF. So this was November, it was 6 months ago now. We built this peace embassy from scratch. 2 years ago, Mother Moon came to Tirana, and like you, she was very inspired by the people. And she said, you know, Albania should be a gateway between Europe and Asia. At the time, Albanians were smarting because they had once again not been considered for candidate status to the European Union. But she said, you know, actually, it can work the other way around. Albania has so much to give. This is our national president in Albania, the former president, Alfred Moisiu, who's been a great supporter of UPF ever since the 2005, and many others. Here's Elion Valai, maybe you know him, the mayor of Tirana. He regularly comes to play basketball with our young volunteers. He's a pretty young guy himself. And we actually had presidents and prime ministers and former from all the Balkan countries. So, you know, just to let you know that UPF is alive and well in Tirana, and we have this wonderful facility. It's 5 floors high. It has a nice meeting hall, a bit bigger than this one. And I just want to add my invitation. If you ever find yourself in Albania, this is the view from our rooftop where we're about to make a coffee shop, looking over the city of Tirana. However, I'm not here to tell you about that today. I'm here to mention about a project that I'm focusing a lot on right now, which is the development of the Peace Road. Now, last year, I see Sally-Ann here, we actually walked across the United Kingdom, along Hadrian's Wall, from the west, out past Carlisle, all the way to the east in Newcastle. We were kicked off by the mayor of Carlisle. We were welcomed by the mayor of Newcastle. You know, once upon a time, Hadrian's Wall was dividing Britain. And we felt, even though this was almost in the middle of COVID lockdown, we had a little window when we were allowed to do it. This year, next month, we're going back to Berlin. I say back to Berlin because in the days of the Berlin Wall, one of UPF's predecessors, a student group called CARP, was very active in generating student involvement. Actually, there were a lot of leftist students in Berlin at the time, but we always went there to fight with them and to say, Die Mauer muss weg, the wall has to go. And of course, it's gone now, but there's a danger that new walls might be erected in Europe, particularly, of course, in Ukraine. So this is the event. It's from the 26th to the 29th of July, so about 40 days from now. And there's three components of it. I mean, looking at the audience, I think maybe the first day would be interesting. That is our conference with the title, Don't Let Ukraine Become Another Korea. Why is that relevant? Because this is actually the 75th, maybe I've got that, but anyway, the 69th anniversary of the armistice of the Korean War. So at that time, there was a decision to stop fighting and try to make peace. But there was no peace treaty, and no one could have imagined that 4 generations later, Korea would still be divided. Korea, of course, the homeland of UPF and its founders. So there will be a time, I'm sure, when there's pressure on Ukraine to give away land for peace. And one of our themes is what else could be done to prevent that? So, I mean, if you're interested in coming, in brief, it's the 2 main days on July 26th and 27th. Now, the UPF conference, I think it will be good. We have a big delegation coming from Korea. Koreans are always interested. How did you manage to unify East and West Germany without bloodshed? I mean, of course, over the years, there was bloodshed as people escaped. But when it came to the final days of East Germany and the Soviet Empire, it took place peacefully. So they always want to learn with an eye what can happen to see the end of the 38th parallel. We're gathering at the Brandenburg Gate, and the Peace Road is primarily a bike initiative. You can rent bikes in Berlin. Mother Moon had the idea, Father Moon many years ago had the idea of an international peace highway that would connect Korea, Japan, America, Russia across the Bering Strait. But that's something that needs governments and trillions of dollars. But what can ordinary people like you and me do to support the idea of a highway of peace? We can join the Peace Road, where people of every faith, every background, and none come together to share a time of fellowship and participation. Now, at the moment, there are rallies in support of Ukraine every day in Berlin. In fact, there's 12 rallies every day in Berlin. So we won't be alone. This is our little organizing team here. And you may not know this, but there are sections of the Berlin Wall still standing. They don't have a death zone in between them like they used to have, but rather they're the site of some amazing graffiti. In fact, part of it is an open-air art gallery. So there will be a peace bike ride. It's not long for those of you who think you might give it a try. And there's an electric bike option as well. But we also have a more leisurely peace boat cruise on an all-electric boat, of course, which will cruise down the River Spree and look at some of the iconic sites of Berlin. And that's also available. So this is a pretty nice boat. It won't just be a seminar. We'll be having music and food, maybe a bit of dancing as well. And then the next day, early in the morning, we're planning to go to the War Memorial itself. And here, as you can see, there is, in fact, a preserved piece of what it was. Of course, there were 2 walls. Most people think there was 1 Berlin Wall, but there were 2. And in between was the infamous death zone to keep the 2 systems apart. So we'll be there. It will be an interfaith prayer with people of every different background. And then, again, for those with more energy, we will take a longer peace bike ride down to Potsdam. Now, if you know anything about the history of Cold War, you'll know that Potsdam was where the KGB had its headquarters. That's where the spy exchanges took place. You'll have a chance to walk over the bridge where the spies met. And if you're good, we'll bring you back. Otherwise, you have to stay in Berlin. You'll be able to visit the great palaces, because before the Cold War, Potsdam was where Frederick the Great used to like to have his relaxation. This is his little summer shack that he had there, just several hundred rooms. So it's really a beautiful city. Our younger participants, and I mean, maybe some of you do have sons or daughters, nephews and nieces, grandchildren, whoever, and you're thinking, what could they do this summer that would give them a bit of culture, a bit of history, and even some peace activism? They'll be staying here in the Central Youth Hostel in Berlin. It's a really beautiful facility and safe too, so you need have no worries. And the conference will actually take place here at the Hotel Melia. It's a beautiful modern hotel on the river. So I mention this because, you know, actions are more powerful than words, right? It's sometimes, somebody said, 95% of life is showing up, as our good friend here did, show up on the Ukrainian border. And you might think, well, actually, I don't have much to bring. You know, I'm not a multi-billionaire. I don't have a big following. I don't think my presence would make a difference. But actually, you're wrong. When many people gather in a way, the more ordinary, the more extraordinary it is, because amazing things happen. So if you're able to do so, ask me over dinner for more information. We have a nice website. Please spread the word. There's still the opportunity to go. Last year was such an amazing experience walking across the country. This year, I think, will be even more special. So thank you, Robin, for the opportunity to speak about it. Thank you.